John Wilkes Booth shot and killed Abraham Lincoln, but he wasn't the only one who tried. This is the story of the Lincoln assassination conspirator the next president pardoned. On March 1, 1869, President Andrew Johnson issued a pardon to Samuel Arnold, one of the men found guilty of a conspiracy to assassinate President Abraham Lincoln. President Johnson didn't explain this act of mercy, and it's impossible now to know exactly why he pardoned the accused man. The first possible explanation is the debate about whether Arnold was even part of the assassination. There's certainly concrete evidence that backed up the notion that Arnold was part of a plot to kidnap the president in March of 1865. The plan was to ransom the president for Confederate prisoners. The scheme never managed to materialize due to Lincoln's changing schedule, and Arnold ultimately abandoned the plans. Unfortunately, 1 month later, a member of the original kidnapping plot, John Wilkes Booth, assassinated President Lincoln. This act of violence occurred while the president and first lady watched a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Several letters appeared to offer definitive proof that Arnold was involved with the conspiracy to kidnap Abraham Lincoln. The evidence for his involvement in the assassination, on the other hand, was much flimsier. Arnold's attorney, Walter Cox, argued that Arnold had backed out from the kidnapping plot. Historian James Thompson explains the justification.
He leaves after that plot fails. He is not involved in the assassination. He is actually, at the time of the assassination, working at Fortress Monroe.
A military tribunal nevertheless found Arnold guilty and sentenced him to life in Florida's Fort Jefferson. Though ultimately convicted, there was another reason why Arnold may have been pardoned. Near the point where Arnold was granted his freedom, there was a lot of public attention on Arnold's co-conspirator and cellmate, Samuel Mudd. Mudd was a doctor from Maryland who had met John Wilkes Booth just once before the assassination. Mudd had set Booth's broken leg while the assassin was on the run following Lincoln's assassination. This essentially sealed his fate as a co-conspirator. Mudd claimed that he only helped Booth because of his position as a doctor. His defense failed to persuade. He was found guilty and sentenced to a life of hard labor at Fort Jefferson. Mudd and Arnold had served several years in a cell together when yellow fever ripped through Fort Jefferson. The epidemic killed the prison's physician, Joseph Sim Smith. Because of his previous life as a doctor, Mudd was placed in charge of medical care at Fort Jefferson. He found a great deal of success in treating the sick men. This was due largely to his focus on constant care and diligent cleanliness, rather than using the traditional method of simply quarantining the ill. President Johnson was petitioned by a grateful soldier to offer Mudd clemency in return for his work. Mudd's wife publicized the petition, and it quickly garnered widespread support and resulted in his eventual pardon. Though Arnold played no part in the medical team, the fact that he was present during the epidemic and Mudd's cellmate might have earned him clemency by association. His pardon came less than 8 weeks after Mudd. But there's still one more reason why Arnold may have been given clemency by President Andrew Johnson. The new commander-in-chief was focused on uniting the country after the brutal Civil War, even if that meant alienating Republicans in the process. He issued a proclamation on May 29, 1865, that offered amnesty to a majority of Confederate officials and soldiers. The condition of that amnesty was swearing allegiance to the United States and freeing any slaves that were still in bondage. Johnson claimed that the proclamation was necessary to focus on punishing the small group of leaders of the Confederacy. Nevertheless, it's considered one of the most controversial uses of a pardon in presidential history. The initial pardon excluded 14 groups of Confederates to target the ringleaders of the rebellion. But on September 7, 1867, President Johnson decided to expand the pardon in an effort to hasten the Reconstruction efforts. He continued to increase the reach of his mercy, and by Christmas of 1868, almost all former Confederates were forgiven. Considering Johnson's pattern of leniency, it's not improbable to guess that the president wanted to finish his policy for clemency before he left office. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Grunge videos about US history are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.